Hi, Girly Pops. It's Zoe London from Proverbs, and welcome back to our little Bible study YouTube series. If you watched the last episodes, you know that we're studying the book of Proverbs right now. It is the most sort of cut and dry, do this, not that sort of book in the Bible, which I think makes it a really great entry point for reading the Bible, whether or not that's as a Christian, as somebody that has a different spiritual or religious leaning, or somebody that just wants good girly advice. Because I can tell you that as somebody that converted to Christianity in my adulthood, and as somebody that grew up very secular, I mean, my views are still super duper secular, super duper progressive. But I honestly was really remarkably and pleasantly surprised by how much of what is written in the Bible actually aligns with progressive views. So, welcome back. We are reading the Bible not just in terms of, I'm not doing it in terms of indoctrination. I'm not using it as means of oppression. I think that more so being able to know what is in the Bible, especially if you live in the Western world right now, I think that knowledge is power. And I think that by being able to know what's actually in the Bible, we're able to explore religion as means of liberation instead of as means of oppression. So we're just going to dive right in for chapter 2. And we're going to start with the first verse because we finished up chapter 1 in the last video. So, chapter 2. My son, if thou wilt receive my words and hide my commandments with thee, or daughter in this instance, so that thou incline thine ear unto wisdom and apply thine heart to understanding. Yea, if thou criest after knowledge and liftest up thy voice for understanding, if thou seekest her as silver and searchest for her as hid treasures, then shalt thou understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. So those are verses 1 through 5 in chapter 2. In chapter 1 of the book of Proverbs, it was mostly just an introduction to what the book of Proverbs is about. We defined how we're going to discuss wisdom in the personified way of wisdom as a woman. And we also did a couple of quick little discussions about what is good, what is evil, what is good advice, what is bad advice, and why it's so important to be able to acquire wisdom from trusted sources versus acquiring wisdom in that, fuck around and find out sort of way, because it's always better to learn from somebody else's mistakes, right? We also talked a little bit about the fear of the Lord, which is mentioned again here in verse 5. You're going to understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. So again, contextually, because this stuff is thousands of years old, a lot of it is addressed to, my son and stuff. And I just want to talk about the implications of how that masculine dominant voice has allowed people to sort of twist the words of the Bible in a way that has been quite oppressive towards women, especially because of what we're seeing right now in the United States predominantly. But also there are a lot of what we would have assumed or called fringe movements in, different political parties in the Western world that are now becoming much more mainstream and that really, really do push the male dominant, female subservience agenda, right? And I think that as girls and as women who realistically predominantly most of the people watching these videos are going to be girls, right? Because I'm a girl blogger. I think it's very interesting, these first 5 verses, to talk about contextually because of the fact that, yes, it is addressing a son, right? But one thing that we should really keep in mind in terms of the book of Proverbs is that, well, the sort of operant audience that is being addressed is a son. When we are discussing knowledge and understanding and wisdom in the entire book of Proverbs, the concepts of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, which are so fundamental to the fear of the Lord, the knowledge of God, contextually within the Bible, those are all personified as women. And I think that that is very interesting. And I found that that was really interesting for me when I first read the book of Proverbs, because originally, one of the aspects of organized monotheistic big three religions that I was a bit skeptical of and suspicious of was the fact that I had learned and I had heard, and a lot of the rhetoric that has been espoused by very right wing fundamentalist, the woman's places in the kitchen groups has, and, always backing those views up. Those groups have backed those views up with, it's in the Bible, it's somewhere in the back, right? I was really, really pleasantly surprised to find that in the Bible, and you will probably find this in other holy scriptures as well, a lot of what is in the Bible actually views and discusses and the parts of women, or the aspects of femininity in women that the Bible discusses in terms of a reverence is female, very feminine wisdom, knowledge. All of these things are viewed as feminine traits to the extent that wisdom, knowledge, understanding are viewed as and personified as women. So I think that that is something that is really, really liberating to be aware of.